Hello. Do you have your sheet of paper that tells you your notes that you know?
It was an envelope.
It would be that one.
I'm glad I picked the sneakiest, least crinkliest part.
Yes. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Welcome to the School for Wayward Nerds. This is a Not Quite episode. What is a Not Quite episode of this podcast? It's an episode where I take over and I do my best not to ruin whatever topic we are covering. So for this week, Captain Toby is going to imagine that he is on an island surrounded by palm trees and rums.
Avast you mateys!
While First Mate Kyle tells us about the Pirates of the Caribbean, the Curse of the Black Pearl.
The curse of the little gooey things that are at the bottom of the bubble tea.
Oh.
Those are black pearls sometimes.
Yeah, tapioca.
I'm right.
I didn't say that you were wrong. Dear God.
Defensive already.
This is going terribly. I love it. So, it's well known that the movie, at least this first one that we're talking about, is based on the ride which debuted at Disneyland Resort March 18th, 1967.
Mm-hmm.
It's old. It's called the Pirates of the Caribbean. Or Caribbean. Do you have a preference on how I say Caribbean?
It depends.
Both are correct.
No, it's one of those semantics things, man. There's like Caribbean rum, but there's parts of the Caribbean. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it's
both
where you're
right.
using the word as to how it is.
Yeah.
Me and my dad have this horrible problem where the glass is half full, half empty, and like I know I get it from him because I've seen him do the same problem. It depends on where it started. Like if it's a full glass and you're like using it, it's starting to dwindle when it's half empty. But if you're filling it from the bottom and it's coming up, it's half full.
Oh God.
But if I was a pirate, I would say that the cup is at half tide. Bringing it back.
So the ride itself went through some fairly interesting changes. Originally, Walt had imagined that it would be a walk-through wax museum that would take you back to, the golden age of pirating.
I feel like that used to be more of a thing of, like, themed wax museums.
Yeah.
Because that was back when they used to glorify, like, murders a bit harder than they do now. Instead of just having, like, podcasts about it, there would be, like, come and see, like, Bonnie and Clyde's shot-up car. Yeah. And there'll be, like, a wax figure of them there. That's not so much a thing anymore. Like, come check out the bones of Ted Bundy at our weird
even
carnival.
If you think of, like, Madame Tussauds and stuff like that, like, a wax museum, you have the thing because, people couldn't... But the internet didn't exist. That was why you had wax models of stuff. But, like, you're not just going to have, like, a dude.
Learned at these sort of tours is now a Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely a gone thing.
Yeah. But as Walt was, getting different Imagineers on board and things, they brought their own flair and, like, ideas to the project. Which, basically, the 1967 Pirates of the Caribbean is the version we had till about the mid-90s. There was a few changes in there, like, rather than the pirates chasing women, the women were chasing the pirates. They just, like, turned the models around and stuff like that. But that was basically what we had right up until mid-90s, early 2000s.
Yeah. Cut to me on our first tour of the theme parks in the States. And my dumb ass just, when we go through the ride, I'm like, it's crazy how much they got Johnny Depp to look like that dude at the end of the ride.
Yeah. And I had to point
You
out.
had to explain to me that they added him after the film. He was not a part of it.
No, but...
I thought he was like, for example, Madame Leota in the Haunted Mansion film.
Yeah,
like,
but
I thought he was
Leota in the ride doesn't look like Jonathan Tilly.
You know what I mean? Like, I assumed it was a pre-existing thing.
No.
I know.
No, that character wasn't there at all.
I don't have a lot of trivia slip-ups often, but that might be one of my, like, dumbest ones.
That said, though, it goes the other way, because there's a point where Barbosa calls his crew cockroaches, which he took from the ride.
Yeah,
because it's a line that one of the, like, ship scenes has.
There's
and
a lot of stuff from the ride that I see
that,
here. Like, there's a lot of things that cycle back around.
Well, so they basically use the ride to give them, like, a rough, like, outline for the film. So you have the grotto where the adventure starts, the bombardment of the fort, the sacking of the town, and then the burning town.
Yeah.
Which, the last one is Tortuga. Just to, like, put it into a sequencing. However, due to ongoing failures with pirate films in Hollywood, and the growing failure of movies based on theme park rides, the film was slated to be yet another failure.
Citing Haunted Mansion once again. That's a great example.
I actually went back and, like, looked at how many theme park rides they tried to do just within Disney.
You've got that.
Yeah,
You've got the Country Bear movie
well.
that's really bad.
So Country Bear hadn't come out yet, but he comes up later in my notes.
Oh, okay, cool. They've done the Haunted Mansion, obviously. Jungle Cruise, which clearly took so much inspiration from Pirates of the Caribbean, which is the only successful one of these.
Pretty much. Tomorrowland is the other one you were thinking of.
No, I was thinking of the made-for-TV Tower of Terror film from the mid-ass 90s.
And that was, like, what came before this. So, basically, this film was going to be a failure, and they already knew that. And they just took a number of steps to ensure that the film did as little damage as possible. That was the stage that Disney were at this point. They were like, it's gonna flop because it's a pirate film about a theme park ride. But let's just do it anyway. I don't know why. So originally the script was written by Jay Walpert in 2001. And as I said, it's based on the story of Pirates of the Caribbean. But there was a twist. Will Turner was a prison guard. And he releases Sparrow to rescue Elizabeth, who was being held for ransom money by Captain Blackheart. That was the film we were supposed to get.
Okay.
What do you think about Will just being a prison guard and being like, they want money for her, I'll let out this pirate?
It doesn't really change the film, frankly, because he wanders in there looking for him anyway, so to speak.
The only thing that really changes is the
swordsman stuff, but
Blackheart and the money.
I don't know who Blackheart is. Is he the dude from that fifth one I keep asking about?
No, he's just a pirate captain.
Okay, he's Blackbeard without the licensing.
Pretty much. The film was slated to be direct-to-video release.
Oof, they really had no faith in this.
Because it wasn't going to do anything.
Keep in mind, we're not just talking about like ride adaptation Disney. We're talking about Disney in like the biggest pit of despair that it has seen in a very long time.
Oh yeah.
Where if it's not Pixar or like one of their licensed things like a Star Wars, they had nothing. Their live action films were Vin Diesel's The Pacifier.
Yeah.
Like there is nothing there.
So in 2002, the script was rewritten by Stuart Barty. Due to his knowledge, they purely brought him on because he knew something about piracy.
Okay. Did he watch all the Disney films, like, illegally?
I don't know, but pirates.
Yeah.
He knows a thing or two about pirates, and so he can rewrite our entire script. However, this would not be the final script that they ended up using, because they brought on, around the same time, Elliot and Rioso, who rewrote it again, this time adding the supernatural curse that they kind of pulled it out of the opening monologue of the attraction from, like, the original one. Because they changed
I don't remember,
the
like, the plot of the ride
mostly.
so much, but I do remember skeletons driving a boat.
Yes. Which is where, like...
As dumb as that sounds without any context, but I'm picturing in my head like the one on the big boat steering wheel.
Basically, one of the, like, if you go through the original monologue, the line that they pulled out is "Dead men tell no tales."
That's a different Pirates of the Caribbean movie.
It is. But, like, as you go through it, and they changed the monologue later to, like, reflect that.
Oh, it's another...
Because it's, but they do tell tales.
Hmm.
Because, spoiler alert for the film that came out 400 years ago,
Zombies.
They're all dead,
Yeah.
but they're still alive.
That's right, baby.
So, anyway, we finally have gotten to the part where we're looking for a director.
Okay. One more question about the ride.
Right.
Before all its redesigns and touch-ups and stuff. The bones were real, right?
Some of them.
And then they changed out most of them over time.
Because people realised they were real.
Except for one. As the expert who likes to knock down all the Disney fan theories we see in
there
conspiracies.
Is said to be a skull, which still exists within the ride, in a particular scene.
The bed, right? Is there a dude in a bed in this? Oh my god,
Yes,
I should have Google imaged it or something just to reflect, but goddamn.
Guys, we're signing up to watch a POV of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, I'm just stream of consciousing my way through this ride.
It was around into the mid-2000s. I don't know if it is still there because I think they tried to hide the fact. And then too many people realised that they didn't hide it well enough.
There's a simple way to figure it out. You lick it. If it tastes like plaster, it's fake. If it tastes like the bones that your dog would hoard in the yard, then maybe not.
As someone who has maybe walked the ride a number of times, it is a lot harder to walk those show scenes than they let on. Because the amount of animatronic that is inside the flooring, you will die.
Yeah.
Because weirdly, animatronics don't see people. So they will just run into you without caring.
Yeah, I always hear spooky ghost fucking stories about the theme parks, and it's always the pirates don't turn off properly all the time, and they just scurry around and running over staff.
Walt Disney World Pirates of the Caribbean is said to be haunted.
Yeah, because it's full of fucking bones. It's literally the plot from Poltergeist 1.
Disneyland.
They removed the headstones and not the body.
Disneyland had skeletons.
Oh,
World did not. Disney World is haunted. I don't know about Disneyland.
Well, do the ghosts know the difference? Because I know I don't. Because if they don't, they might be haunting the wrong one.
But I'm just saying maybe the cast members have to say hello and goodnight to a particular individual in order to make sure the ride functions properly.
The supervisor.
However, watching from the roof, best fireworks position. Moving on, because I don't know any of this information, and you shouldn't listen to anything I say.
Welcome to another episode of Hearsay Cast.
So, I'm going to get this name wrong, I'm really sorry.
Give us a squiz there, lassie. I went Scottish in my pirate.
I don't know why.
I think it's Gore Verbinski. I think that N's a mistake.
The N is a mistake.
I'm sure Gore Verbinski's a name I've heard somewhere before.
Okay, well, he signed on around this time to direct the series. Because he wanted... So, he was excited that they were doing, a pirate film that had other stuff to it. But he was really excited that he would be able to bring a genre of golden Hollywood back into, current times.
There's a lot of dead genres currently.
Exactly. That he could use modern technology in order to, make it actually believable compared to what golden Hollywood had it.
Yeah.
And he remembered writing the ride as a kid, and he was like, as a child, it was scary, but it was funny.
Yeah.
And so he, had this script in front of him that it's, pirates, but they're zombie skeletons. And he was like, and a drunk guy in the corner.
Yeah, it's Gore Verbinski. I'm sorry, I was just fact-checking.
So he thought it was, he was like, it sounds like it's going to be fun. I'll sign on to it. Why not?
That's fascinating that he wanted to bring back some of the classic genres of Hollywood, because he was also the director for The Lone Ranger.
Oh, buddy.
Oh, champ.
At least you succeeded.
And a bunch of Bad Religion music videos. Cool.
Okay.
I'm sorry that sounded fake, but...
So...
And Crystal Method, Born Too Slow. If you played Need for Speed Underground, you know that that's a banger. So, yeah, that's cool.
So he starts working on it and starts putting together, like, a rough storyboard and stuff like that. And then the Country Bear releases.
Oh, no.
And Michael
Starring
Eisner,
Christopher Walken, by the way.
Michael Eisner gets a little bit concerned. And he's like, maybe we should just cancel the movie. Like, maybe it's just... we just finish. Because, I mean, at this start, the film's doing poorly. They still hadn't worked out who was playing Jack Sparrow. If you want to, like, really upset yourself, go and look through the potential Jack Sparrow casting. I'm not going to get into it in this podcast because I don't have the time.
Yeah, there's, like, dozens upon dozens of weird choices.
Because if it was going to be direct-to-TV, they had a list. If it was going to be film, they had a list. And then they had the people they actually wanted. Weirdly enough, Johnny Depp was not on any of those lists.
Robert De Niro.
He was on one of those lists. I think it was the direct-to-TV one. So they were like, look, this is crazy. Maybe we just cancel it. And Gore was just like, yeah, look, come into the office in about 2 weeks and we'll talk about it and we'll decide what we're going to do from there. Lied to his concept artist and we're like, we are going ahead full steam. I want everything to be perfect and immaculate.
Well, he's not going to be able to sell this thing with, like, half-finished, downtrodden stuff that doesn't really matter. I feel like no one would have tried that hard if it was a cancelled film.
Exactly. But so, Eisner comes in to, like, decide what they're going to do about the film, sees what they have managed to come up with, and he's like, yeah, alright, we can go ahead with it. However, you need to remove the more overt references to the ride.
Oh, yeah, he wants to separate it.
Yeah. He was like, anything that, like, screams the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, you need to get rid of.
Which is such a bad sign, because the only other example I can think of off the top of my head is Warner Brothers pulling the DC badge and Selena Kyle's name off of Halle Berry's Catwoman and just letting it do, like, I'm just going to cast it out to sea.
The thing that's good about it, though, because Gore was, like, such a fan of the ride from his childhood, he just put in heaps of references that weren't, like, crazy over the top. And put in enough that anyone that does know the ride was like, oh, it's the dog in the prison cell.
Well, it's a ride. It's open to interpretation as well. Yeah. So, like, there's not necessarily a huge plot to four set pieces and, like, a little bit where the boat goes whoop.
I mean, there is a story, but if you don't know it...
Yeah, but you have to be, like, a real dork to follow it. It's more of a... You know what it is. Like it's more of a spectacle kind of system.
I feel like Pirates of the Caribbean is an easier story to pick up on than Haunted Mansion.
Oh, yeah. Haunted Mansion, they've got,
the whole Master Gracie story is so convoluted.
They've got a dude hanging himself. They've got a wife who's crazy, but she's an axe murderer, so why is he hanging himself? They've got a guy with a hat.
Hatbox Ghost is great. Shut up.
What is his point? What's he doing? Is he the wife?
No.
Is she in the box?
No, it's his head in the box.
Then why is he even there?
Because he was originally for the ride in 67 and he broke freaking constantly. So they pulled him out and then they finally worked out how to do it because technology.
That's what I'm saying. It's a lot more cluttered.
Speaking of technology, let's finally get into the film. Thank you. And as we go through, I'm going to add, like, the casting because otherwise this whole podcast is just pre-production.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people in it.
Yeah, we need to get to the film. So, start of the film. We have young Elizabeth Swann making the crossing from England to Port Royal, Jamaica, because her dad has just been instated head honcho. I can't think of the actual name for it.
Governor or something.
Yeah. Oh, yes, he is the governor.
He's in charge of some sort of whitewashing in a Jamaican settlement.
Yeah. Elizabeth clearly already has a fascination with pirates as she is singing the tune Yo Ho, which was created originally for the ride by Imagineer Francis Xavier, or just X.
Oh.
You just like to go by X.
He's the fucking brother from Speed Racer.
Look, that movie gets some real hate. I love
it. Does not. It does not. It's a goofy movie. It's like, this is underrated. It's like, I've only ever heard good things. It's just from like 12 people.
Yeah. Loved it. Watched it multiple times on repeat.
That's one of those small
as a grown adult.
It's one of those small but very passionate cult following movies.
Yeah. The ship that she's on happens across a damaged ship, which is still on fire, going for it, and a young boy on like a piece of wreckage. Elizabeth is put in charge of watching over the young boy, who she learns is Will Turner, before fingering his sleeping body to find a gold medallion.
Yeah. Just fucking...
She literally reaches inside his shirt and touches his nipple.
She's grave robbing an unconscious child.
She then proceeds to steal the coin, claiming later on in the film she was afraid he was our pirate.
It looks like piratey treasure, I'm not gonna lie.
I know, but what's stealing the coin gonna do?
Hide it from the people. I think she wanted to keep him as a pet.
I really think the whole way through this film, I don't think it's... Like, he loves her. She's just like, ooh, a new toy.
Yeah.
Toby, do you go around stealing other people's jewelry, assuming their occupation?
Nah.
No? Do you think that's, normal behaviour?
I don't know what to do.
Oh, you look like a nurse. I'm going to steal your watch.
That's my stethoscope now.
Yeah, that's weird. However, we don't get to...
There might be some sort of mystical pull to that stupid cursed coin as well.
Maybe.
It's like the golden toad from American Dad.
I don't know, it seems weird.
Well, it's got a curse on it.
But anyway, we catch up to what I'm going to call modern day.
Because I say the present day of
1800s. And the port is preparing for Captain Norrington to be promoted to Commodore Norrington. A nice SS Commodore.
Oh, yeah.
I have researched. This is a useless fact. Wouldn't have happened in real life.
How come?
Because a Commodore was instated to look over a, large thing of ships.
A fleet.
A fleet of ships. And while there was a fleet in the port, it wasn't big enough to be, a Commodore's fleet.
We're going to assume some are out patrolling and doing their things, but there is a lack of boats overall in this film.
So he would have been promoted up to commandor the fleet while it was there. They would have brought in someone of a higher rank than him, and then he would have gone back down to high captain. This is not information anybody needs.
Yeah,
but I have it.
I love when people hang shit on weird semantic details like that in films. That's just fun.
Don't worry, because I've got more.
Me too.
Because I started researching things and then I was like, hang on a second, this has nothing to do with what I'm actually doing. So, of course this means that Elizabeth gets a fancy new dress all the way from England. Will makes a fancy sword for her dad to give to Norrington. And, they're doing their fancy rich people of the port thing. With all the fuss going on, however, no one pays attention to a ship that sinks on its way into port.
Yeah, I do like that opening, shot. It's like playing triumphant ass music. You've got Mr. Sparrow there, just sailing into port. And just as the camera pans out, there's just no ship underneath him.
Funnily enough, apparently that is one of the few, incidents that happened in the film that wasn't supposed to happen, and they just went with it.
Funny.
Another one was that all of the people in Jamaica where they were filming were don't go out at nighttime in the boats. And they're like, oh no, we've got GPSs and stuff, it's fine, we don't need to listen to them. Within a week, Keira Knightley, her mum, and the person rowing their little rowboat, knocked over on a coral reef that was unmarked properly. And when someone was like, oh, they told us not to row the boats at night, someone was like, yeah, you're an idiot, you should have listened to them. So, I was like, haha.
Everyone's very young in this bit. Was one of my first notes. Like
Keira Knightley was 17
yeah,
during filming.
that's what I mean. Like this movie's a lot older than I thought, I suppose. But we've almost completed all of pop culture of 2003. I feel like we smashed that year so good.
Oh yeah, we're doing good.
Smash it like a like button, my friend. But yeah, everyone's like way younger. I was like, oh damn, this is a dated film.
It's not dated.
No,
it's old.
the CGI and stuff in it holds up relatively good. We've seen worse. We've definitely seen worse. Seen worse more recent films.
Exactly. It's up there with Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo's
got great CGI.
It's really good, but it is starting. But the fact that it made it this far to start to look like it's aging a little bit is
because I'm pretty
nuts.
sure that's a 2003 film too.
I'll have a look at it.
Please. Let's call this man that's on a sinking ship Mr. Smith. Looking to...
I do like that, but man... Like, I see the Jack Sparrow bullshit all the time. And we'll talk about it more when we get to the end of this first movie, but he is very fun in this movie. Like, he bribes the dude and then, like, immediately steals even more money from the guy than he paid in the first place.
So, he's very clear about this. He is looking to commandeer a ship to sail to Tortuga in order to find a crew to sail the seven seas.
It was 2002 and the Scooby-Doo sequel's 2004.
See, I averaged them out.
You may have it could have been a DVD release in 2003.
Possibly.
So I don't know.
However, his plans change when Elizabeth faints and falls into the ocean from the top of the fort.
Because she's wearing a corset and she don't like it.
Wearing it wrong, because that shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
I should probably mention by now that, Elizabeth is played by Keira Knightley.
Mm-hmm.
Who was relatively new to the movie scene at this time.
Like you said, a small baby.
She had worked on a few shorts and TV shows, but at this stage, the only real film appearances that she had was Bend It Like Beckham.
That's one of those movies that used to be on TV like every month.
Yeah.
It was one of those ones.
Gore had never seen it.
Fucking, I don't think I've ever seen much of it either.
The other thing she was in, which I'm bringing this up more to fuck with you than for any good reason. She was in Star Wars.
No, hang on, that's not a Star Wars thing. God damn it.
Where she plays Sabe, who is the Natalie Portman lookalike. And the reason that people get confused is because Natalie Portman dubbed her entire character. She's in the full face of white makeup with the little red lip tint.
Oh, the Japanese, empress looking one. Okay, so...
And even their parents, as in Natalie Portman's mother and Keira Knightley's mother, couldn't work out which one was Sabe and which one was...
When I describe either of these actresses as default white woman, it's not my fault. And I will always get them wrong. I can't help it. They're both in love, actually, but neither of them seem to be.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard dealing with things, alright?
So technically, whenever you tell me that Keira Knightley is in Star Wars, you're kind of correct.
If Bill Finger draws Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent next to each other, I'll be able to tell who is who. But God forbid I can figure out a human face.
It's alright, because we both know that our phone gallery cannot tell me as the same person if I'm wearing glasses or not wearing glasses.
I mean, that just straight up proves the theory. Disney's Haunted Mansion came out in 2003 as well.
I know, we've done that one.
No, we did the Muppet one.
No, I think we've done
Haunted Mansion Muppets, too. But I kept insisting on bringing it up because I'm an asshole.
Mr. Smith is the only crazy person, or possibly the only person that is able to swim. Good work, Queen's Navy. He jumps in and saves Elizabeth from drowning.
He does, yeah.
Elizabeth happens to be wearing Will's medallion, which upon hitting the water lets out an electric pulse.
It goes boom.
You're really good at picking up background details.
Yeah.
Apparently, when it pans out from the water when the pulse happens, the clouds above her turn into a hand reaching towards her.
I didn't notice. I was looking at the shockwave.
Cool, because I didn't notice either. And I've seen this movie a number of times. Now, this is... Hang on.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Sorry. I made a spelling mistake and it really messed with my brains. This is possibly a handy feature of the coin. I get that it's cursed and all, but this is the only time that it does this. And it's kind of cool in a wishy-washy way. Like, if you lost it and it gets to water, at least it, like, lets you know where it is.
Yeah, see?
It's like GPS tracking. Yeah, okay, I can kind of see that.
That could also be a coincidence. That's not exactly a whole hand there.
So, Mr. Smith is helping Elizabeth get to shore, and Commodore Norrington works out that Mr. Smith is actually Jack Sparrow, the branded pirate.
Branded because the East India Trading Company would brand pirates that steal their goods. Normally, it's a brand on the face.
He gets it on his arm.
He does.
Maybe they can reach his head.
Maybe he drew a little mustache on his hand, trying to protect his face.
I like that plan. Either way,
he's a sock puppet in my mental picture.
Lovely,
Awesome.
Being that he is a pirate, he must be hung at sunrise.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know, Jack Sparrow is played by Johnny Depp, and that poor man went through so much as a part of this role. So, as we said previously, he was pretty much the last person they wanted to play Jack Sparrow.
Because I asked you, like, when we were watching what he'd done before this, and really it's like Edward Scissorhands and, like,
he is the main feature of a lot of cult films.
Crybaby.
This is his first, like, popular mainstream.
Yeah, it feels like it. Yeah.
So as soon as he, like, auditioned and got part of it, he started researching pirates to make sure that his character was true and accurate to what a pirate would have been.
Do you reckon that scab on his face is supposed to be a syphilis reference?
They don't say, but it was between... So,
but was he doing that on purpose is what I'm asking. Yeah.
So Johnny Depp actually... So like I said, he did a heap of research into pirates, realised that they were kind of reviewed as old-timey rock stars. So he started researching Keith Richards to use that as, like, his basis for his character. Before they started filming, he went and got a whole heap of his own teeth gold-capped. Because he assumed, like, he was like, that's what a pirate would have. Yeah. They're going to have gold teeth. Didn't tell the director, didn't tell Disney, just went and did it. Him and the makeup crew came up with the scab on his cheek that you're talking about. And came up with the idea that throughout the movie, it gets bigger.
That's what I'm saying, like, it's a developing symptom I'd seen somewhere in research.
And that's, like, all of that Depp came up with on his own. When he showed up to do the table read, he did it in what we now know to be, like, the classic Jack Sparrow. You kind of don't know if he's drunk, dehydrated, has a lot of brain injuries, anything like that.
He's wild card.
The Disney execs were like, we can't tell if he's making Sparrow drunk or gay. We don't want him on this film. He's going to ruin it.
You think he's drunk and gay now? Wait till you see Willy Wonka.
Well, so Depp turned around and he said, look, I've done the time, I've done the work. Either you can keep me in character, and that's fine, or you get rid of me. That's your call. You can trust me or you can't. They took the risk. Mostly Gore took the risk. Because even, like, producers and executive directors and things like that were like, I don't really know how this is going to work. And Gore was like, look, we're going to go with it. We'll see how it pans out. Because, like, the film was already slated to be a disaster. Like, who cares at this stage? Clearly it freaking paid off because the amount of money that Johnny Depp's character has made Disney, he's beloved. Like, I couldn't imagine someone else playing. And, like, it worked out because, unbeknownst to you, in a later thing they get Keith Richards in to play Jack Sparrow's dad.
Cool.
So, like, full circle. Back to our story. During the night, however, because Sparrow is being hung in the morning, the Black Pearl arrives at the port, and they begin their search for the Golden Medallion.
Ransacking.
While the crew causes piratey havoc throughout the port, they come across Elizabeth and her coin, and they take her back to the captain under the code of parley, something which gets tossed around throughout this film a great deal. Now, the film is partly correct about the first pirate who reported the code. They'd say that it's Willem and Bartholomew or something like that.
They do a name drop.
Bartholomew is the first recorded pirate code that we have. However, upon further research, usually each ship and sometimes voyage had its own set of code, and this had to be signed by all crew. It was usually just an outlining of behaviour and the division of loot when you were aboard a ship. So, and a lot of the times, if you were found to have signed the pirate code, you would get in a lot of trouble with the law. So they would ask, like, if you got taken on board someone else's ship, you would say, hey, can you hold me at knife point while I sign this? So if we get captured, I can say I only signed it because I was at knife point. Like, that was a very common practice, apparently. But, like, it was things like you weren't allowed to be, like, loud and drinking under the ship's, like, you know, in the living quarters past 8 p.m.
Yeah, because
you had to maintain your weapons so they were ready for battle. You had to, like, if you had a fight with another person on board, you didn't fight on the ship, you fought on land. They didn't care how you fought, so long as it was equal to your punishment. Captain usually got double share of the loot. His first mate and the doctor and any, like, engineering people would get loot in half, and then everyone on the ship would get loot. Like, they were very fair rules.
Well, they had to be because, mutinies, really. Like, the captain was in charge during, like, straight-up battles and shit, but at all other times, most things were put to a complete vote.
Yeah.
They also don't like to be called pirates.
No.
They prefer buccaneer, which roughly translates to the French boucan, which is essentially like jerky.
Yeah.
They used to prepare and live off while you're at sea.
Yeah. So Elizabeth is taken to Captain Barbosa, who is played by Geoffrey Rush.
He's in other stuff too.
Finensky figured that he would play the villain, he was like, he will be a straight villain. No, like a very simple, this is the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Rush didn't take it that way. He created his own elaborate backstory for the character. And in Rush's mind, Barbosa is an unsung hero with a grand plan. He basically decided that the whole reason that he was on this voyage was to get back all of the pieces so that he could free his crew. He was then going to retire from piracy and get married and live out the remainder of his years enjoying the things that he had lost during these 8 years of his life.
Which is fair. No actual character or person thinks of themselves as the villain.
Yeah.
Unless they've watched way too much, like, Walking Phoenix Joker and they're a little incelly, frankly.
So Elizabeth tells Barbosa that her name is Turner, thinking he wants her because she's the governor's daughter. But in fact, they were looking for a relative of Bootstrap Bill Turner. So they can round up the 882 gold pieces which the crew of the Black Gull had taken from the Isla de Morta. The pieces were payment from the Aztecs to Cortez in order to help. They thought that he would stop massacring the Aztec people if they paid him off. But because he was super greedy and took all of the money and still killed them, the Aztec gods put a curse on the treasure, and that was when Barbosa and his crew went and stole it later on. It turned them immortal and also skeletons in the moonlight. So that's where the actual curse comes from.
Yeah.
Will, who is played by Orlando Bloom, the only reason I can see that he got the role is because that he was in Lord of the Rings at the time, and they were banking that would assist their film in being, a little bit bigger. Jeffrey Rush had also convinced him to read the script after working on him with Ned Kelly. So that's a little Aussie shout out there. Anyway, Will begins his progression into piracy by freeing Jack from prison, helping him commandeer a ship, sail to Tortuga, assemble a crew, and then go to rescue Elizabeth. During his time, we learn more about Jack's story, and that he was the captain of the Black Pearl 10 years ago. However, his first mate, who turns out to be Barbosa, ran a mutiny, and they marooned Jack on an island with only his hat, a compass, and a pistol with a single shot. Again, very accurate to most pirate codes.
They don't normally have a plank, though.
No.
No, because you can just go over the side of a boat.
I know, but...
The plank is superfluous.
I know, but it's fun.
You just like it because Peter Pan had a plank in it.
They're fun.
Okay.
Do you have anything to add at this point?
I'm not sure specifically where you're at as far as, like, revealing stuff.
Gibbs and Will are talking about the fact that Jack got off the marooned island with sea turtles and
tied
hair
them
from
with
his
hair
back.
from my back. So, yeah, he has a huge-ass beard. Why do you use his back hair? Ridiculous.
Because it's under his shirt.
It's also not true.
No, it wasn't in the slightest.
Haha. Lies. Lies and deception, baby.
But so Jack was marooned 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The curse was 8 years.
Yeah. He wasn't there at the time.
No. Just making sure our timelines are correct.
Yeah.
Will didn't really need to bother, however, because as you might have guessed, Elizabeth, her blood didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Because she's not Bill Turner's daughter.
Because she lied at first thinking they wanted her because she's the governor's daughter because the fucking maid put her on a bum steer.
Yeah.
And she went with Will Turner's name because she wants to bone down so bad. It's fucking ridiculous. That fucking scene in front of her dad when she's like, I'm having dreams about you, is like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, it's very... Even her dad's like, this isn't very civil.
Yeah, I know. He's old-timey civil, though, so, like, holding hands is fucking horny. But, like, she's like a sentence away from saying, bro, I'm dripping. You know? Like, she's laying it on pretty thick. Thick like peanut butter, that.
Will is there to save Elizabeth in the end anyway.
Yes, because he's very fixated on doing good and justice and all good things prevail.
Elizabeth...
Honestly, around this point of the movie, I'm like, are we just watching fucking Star Wars?
Pretty much.
Because you've got the woman captured by the villain, Leia Darth Vader, and then then the super good guy, you know, your Luke Skywalker, has to help Han Solo escape from Jabba the Hutt because he's like not a mercenary, he's a pirate, but like, you know, like a scallywaggy type fella. He has to help him get free from some bullshit so he can save the princess. Obviously, it doesn't stick to that gun, but I'm like, man, that also might just be a trio thing, like the good guy, the ambivalent one, and the woman. Which I'm sure that's in other things too.
I really hope I'm the woman in this scenario. We then see Elizabeth steal the medallion for the second time.
Bitches be pinching.
Again, she didn't need to, but okay.
Well, she grabs it when she escapes.
And then we get the fastest, slowest chase scene in a film, where the Black Pearl chases the Interceptor in order to get the medallion back.
It's funny, man, 'cause she brought up the Commodore earlier like it was a joke. Meanwhile, the ship is named after the car from Mad Max.
Yeah.
Awesome. Probably not on purpose.
I will admit that the fight scene between the two ships is pretty epic.
All the fucking fight scenes in this are good. Do you remember when Will... Oh, to go back a little bit. Back on the original island, Jack is trying
Port Royal.
Yeah, Jack's escaping after, you know, taking Elizabeth hostage for a minute there. Then they have the sword fight with Will. Mm-hmm. And, like, the sword clangs are, like, matching the score beat for beat.
Yeah.
Which fascinated me because I just, like, rewatched that fucking Cats review and I'm like, they got the sword play choreography to match the sound. Meanwhile, a musical couldn't get the singers to keep a fucking beat.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Amazing the complete difference.
It is a really good scene.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's when they're in the blacksmithery.
I liked it because I was waiting for it to turn into the wheel. but that's a different movie. I've seen bits of a couple of these, and I don't know the difference really.
We're slowly showing you all of the weird, like, not Star Wars films.
Yeah,
because we've now finished the 4 Indiana Jones movies that exist.
I hate that I liked the worst one the best. not to get too free periody, but like those other movies are good, and that's fine. They're just good, but they're also so iconic and so referenced that I fucking get it. It's not special to see them now, but the 4th one is so fucking stupid and bonkers that it's pretty funny, honestly. So like. It's that thing we've said it before on the podcast. Like, it's better to be interesting than just good. He survived an atom bomb because he was in a fridge, yo. That's crazy. And then he fucking told the government he was there at Area 51. That's fucking nuts. I love it. Good times. Great classic hits.
Alright, so the Black Pearl wins the skirmish between the 2 boats.
Yeah.
They end up sinking the Interceptor. I do like, at this point in the movie, you got up to go and get a drink, so you weren't even looking at the screen, and you were telling me about how if they shoot the 2 cannonballs connected by a chain, it's really bad for the ship.
No, I said it was bad for people caught in it. It's made for the ship, it ain't made for fucking knees.
Immediately that happens and it sinks the Interceptor, and I was like, They capture the crew and Elizabeth, whom Barbosa pretty much throws to the wolves for lying to them. He just pushes her into the crew and he's like, here, deal with this woman.
Here, get raped.
That's pretty much what
he doesn't say it though, because it's a children's Disney film.
However, at this point, Will shows up and decides to make a deal with Barbosa to release Elizabeth.
I like that he's sort of, crew. You know, when like you grab a person, put a gun to their head, and they're like, if you fucking, I'll kill it. He like kind of does that to himself.
Yeah.
I like that, that's fun. Because Jack had revealed to him all that stuff about his dad and shit.
I do like the Jack reveals things, and he's like, if this is how you do it, it'll work.
Well, that's
no one trusts him because he's a pirate.
Yeah, that's the ongoing thing. It's like, oh fuck, what does he say? I won't be able to do the quote verbatim more specifically, but the whole like, never trust an honest person, because a dishonest person, you know they're lying. When an honest person's when you're with an honest person, you don't know when they're lying because they're not, and it's like it's one of those things where it's confusing. But then he does wild card stuff.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You never know what Jack has decided.
He's always honest, but he does it in like a inconvenient or weird way, which we brought up regarding the moral of the film.
At this point, Toby and I have very different, what is the moral of the Pirates of the Caribbean story?
Yeah.
Because I was like, when you make a deal or give instructions, you need to be extremely clear. Make sure you cut out as many loopholes as possible.
Because we see Elizabeth make several deals that only end up like shooting her in the foot because they just go around it in a certain way.
This is basically what Will is doing currently.
Yeah.
Toby's moral to the story is,
just find the loopholes that the other person's giving you and work with them.
Yeah. So you can see how we are two extremely different people.
Yeah, we're on different ends of that conversation.
Toby, you have now been made Barbosa because you use Will's loophole to maroon Jack and Elizabeth on the same island that he deserted Jack on the first mutiny.
It's the same gun too, isn't it?
And Jack is resigned. It's the same gun, and he's like, there's 2 of us, so I should get 2 shots. And he's like, no,
be a gentleman and kill the
one
woman.
Shot.
Yeah.
Which again, pirate code.
And then it leads to like the part of the movie that kind of dismissed the whole franchise to me is the "Why is the rum gone?" quote, because I feel like that is so overplayed and tedious.
It's funny.
Yeah, it's so funny the 1,000th times you hear it.
So Jack is resigned to. It turns out the first time that he was on the island, it was used as a rum runner's island, and he just like bartered with them until they put him on the ship and he got back to land.
Yeah, you got it right.
Can't happen again because they no longer use this island, but they have left a bunch of product around. So he's like, okay, I'm gonna live out my days on this tropical island.
Well, all the white people doing Commodore shit have kind of made it a hard place to do rum runs.
Exactly. Elizabeth doesn't like rum. So she decides instead to set everything on fire.
Rude.
Literally the whole island.
Yeah, she makes a smoke signal.
She hopes that her dad and Norrington will be looking for her and will see the fire. I will give it to her. This works. Apparently when they were filming, they did actually set the island on fire. They didn't say anything to anyone. And so someone pulled up to that island like a week later and like all of the trees were like blackened and burnt down and things like that, and they freaked out that something had happened.
Yeah.
And that like they had to go searching for dead bodies.
What was that other movie we watched recently?
Because they just left.
Eager. So there's this caveman movie from like the fucking 50s or 60s or something. And as a cost-saving measurement, what they did was they just didn't get permits to film anything anywhere. And would just film until like a park ranger rocked up and said, "What are you guys doing?" And then they'd fucking scurry on out there. It's like that. It's like, yeah, we'll just set fire to this island. I'm sure no one will notice.
Upon being saved by Norrington and her dad, they're convinced to save Will from the pirates, from the promise of marriage with Elizabeth.
Yeah, she exchanges her literal self.
Which her dad gives some very good advice here for anybody. The right thing, done for the wrong reasons, is still not the right thing. I.e., don't marry this dude to save the dude that you actually like, because while it's a good match, no.
Yeah. I mean, like we said, he can very clearly see that she is hot and heavy for the other guy.
Yeah.
Good
also, Norrington's like 400 times her age.
Everyone's 400 times her age. She's a child.
Exactly.
She's a child actress, apparently. That's a special effect her boobs on.
It was a forgotten art, which I think is also kind of nice because they're trying to bring back pirate films from the golden age of Hollywood, and she has to use booby makeup from the golden age of Hollywood. Because they no longer do that.
I'm sure drag queens still do it.
To a degree. Elizabeth gets what she wants anyway because they take her to the Isle of Mortar, and she's able to save Will. This is where I find the most confusing part of the film.
Oh, yeah?
Jack convinces the British Navy to do one thing. They don't listen to him, because he's a pirate. Jack then convinces Barbosa's crew to attack the British, which they don't do, because Jack is a pirate.
Again, he's just like doing honest stuff and calling bluffs.
Elizabeth goes to the Black Pearl to set Jack's crew free, assuming that they would do what she wanted them to do.
Yeah.
They basically, pirate code and start sailing off with the Black Pearl. Elizabeth's mad at them, but I mean, I would too. So she goes in to save Will. She and Will work together. Jack turns on Barbosa again and is like, of course I was never on your side. And they start battling. Barbosa then stabs Jack, and we learn that he stole a coin. And
what do you mean we learn? Fucking test audiences ruined that moment so bad.
I would have been much better if we didn't know that he stole it.
No, they originally had that. And test audiences like, oh, I don't fucking get it. Why don't we make Will Smith like the hero at the end of I Am Legend and defeat the whole fucking purpose of the film? You're a dickhead. Read the book.
Exactly.
Ugh. Jerks, a lot of them. I'm sure they did something to that first Suicide Squad movie. Can't trust a test audience.
Barbosa is like, we're both immortal pirate people. What is the point of us? Like
that bit,
we'll keep fighting, but like,
no, that bit's so good when Jack is like monologuing to him about sending the pirates off to fucking get the British people. And he picks up the treasure and he's like, kill every, drops one, last, drops one, and drops one. That's a cool moment. And then, like, it showed, like, they went back and filmed him slow motionally, like, keeping one in his hand. That bit is so cool as a twist. Oh, I hate that they fucking changed that. That sucks.
Yeah.
Because the reveal when he, like, gets stabbed and steps back into the moon.
It would
and then he does, like, the coin
400
flick.
times better.
He does the coin
without.
flick trick that I used to be able to do with razor blades because I didn't work very good at my old job. Can't do it with coins, though. They're heavier.
I don't think that the 882 pieces were real gold.
I'm sure there is, like, 30 of them on top of a polystyrene cube.
One of my favourite pieces of trivia.
Yeah.
None of those coins were left by the end of filming.
Duh. I think...
They cannot prosecute anyone because all 882 pieces were gone before the filming wrapped.
I hate the proprietary, like... I understand it because the film company is, like, funding all this practical bullshit. So they expect... I don't even know why they expect it to return to them, because, like, what the fuck are they going to do with it? You can't recycle stuff. We're not talking about the magnetic boots from Face Off showing up in the Super Mario film, because how often does that shit really happen?
You say that.
Are you going to recycle
but you've
everything?
been to the Warner Brother Pop Factory.
Yeah, that's fascinating as hell. But, like, why hoard all that stuff? Like, the fact that Ryan Reynolds had to straight up pickpocket his own Deadpool suit after he was the one who pioneered that film in the first place is crazy. You may as well dump that stuff in an auction house and have fans pay for it, because it'll fund your next thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Kind of like how, like, comic book art used to just get shredded for proprietary reasons. Like, the original art would get scanned, printed, and destroyed. And now, you know, after a while, like, they would start to give it back to the creators to sell, to make some money, because they're making, like, $1 a page or some shit.
Yeah. That's the same as, like, people sit there and say, why did the Disney Archive exist? And it's like, because we might need that crap.
The Disney Vault's evil, because it's just, like, creating fake exclusivity of their own products to make it more valuable.
Yeah.
Like the diamond industry.
But it's somewhat, like... I'm not sure where this is going to come out. We're doing some pre-recording at the moment while we've got some time. In the Batman of... You know, they made Azrael Batman really freaking annoying, so you want a real Batman back. Disney does the same thing with the Vault. They're like, if we take it off you and you can't get it, you're gonna want it again. That's the whole point of it. It's not about, like, pulling some trick over your eyes. It's like, if we have this constantly for sale, you're not gonna want it.
Unless you were banking on things reappearing in a sequel, then just let it go.
The only thing that I'm annoyed has never made it out of the vault is Song of the South. Because it's actually a really good film. And...
Just put the Warner Brothers disclaimer on the front of it where it's like, oh, this is fucking inappropriate now, don't be a racist.
But the thing is, the issue they have with Song of the South is that the Southern family keeps slaves. And the time around the film is ambiguous.
That's what I'm saying. Put the disclaimer at the start. Bang.
I'm sorry. Americans had slaves.
We
all know.
They had slaves in Pirates of the Caribbean. I do like that detail that shitloads of the ship's crew are like, Jamaican-esque people.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that stuff that was getting, shipped across that sea were sugarcane, and the people growing and cultivating the sugarcane later on cotton fields.
Yeah.
So...
And that's the thing. If a ship was, destroyed by pirates, they would turn around and say, hey, do you want to go down with the ship, or do you want to join us?
Yeah, and they're like,
They didn't care about skin colour, they didn't care about... It was we need bodies to man the ship. Are you going to able-body us?
Yeah, the longer piracy, goes in history, the better they seem compared to, the environment they were in.
Well, and that's, you think about it, all countries, not just Britain, but all countries were trying to expand their kingdoms. They were doing shady deals, stealing spices, stealing people, stealing sugarcane. Of course people are going to rebel against shitty behaviour. That's not really a surprising...
Need some sort of street pirate.
So, we're at the point in the film, and this I think was kept as a relatively great twist. Jack shoots Barbosa. And Barbosa starts making fun of Jack because he wasted the shot that he kept for 10 years.
No, actually, I don't like this bit. I agree that it's a cool move, but like he gets shot and he's like, "Oh, you wasted your bullet you'd been holding onto for revenge," and then it shows Will drop the coin. It should already be in there. He should just have a cut hand, being like, "Suck my dick."
But we have to see that it's got both bloods on it.
I know, like
otherwise it doesn't.
I get that, but if the coin ain't already in the chest, then the bullet's already don't matter. You know, I want it to be like a past tense thing, maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's still a cool move.
Doesn't matter because full circle, the film ends with Jack being fitted for his noose.
Yeah, because he's a pirate. He should be
He's a pirate.
Yeah, he should be either hung or put on gibbet as a warning to other pirates.
Will decides that he's going to try and save him.
Mm-hmm. Dressed like a musketeer.
Oh, yeah.
Like, ridiculous outfit at the end of that film. I get that he's a swordsman and shit, but like, what the fuck?
Well, I'm assuming he got home. Her dad pardons him because she's like, if I kill him as well...
No,
Elizabeth is never gonna like
a pocket full of the treasure from that island.
Oh,
definitely funded his like sweet new outfit, his cool ass horse, his iPod shuffle. Because this is such an old film, it still uses the old. It doesn't really. There's no electricity.
No,
you know what I'm saying.
Will says that he's perfectly fine with being a traitor to the British, and that he's saving a good man. And if that just means that there's two heads on the noose rather than one, he's happy with it. At which point, a woman has power.
Hooray.
Elizabeth steps in and she's like, please don't hang him, Daddy, I love him. Jack uses this as his opportune time to dive off the fort into the ocean. And luckily, the Black Pearl happens to be there.
No, not luckily. He knew because the bird.
I know, but like...
You'll remember this as the day you almost caught... O.J. Simpson.
I'm pretty sure they caught him.
Only a little. They got him for like tax fraud or some vague bullshit to make up for the case being a train wreck.
Any thoughts on the film itself?
Yeah, there's lots of like good bits. I feel like you sort of rushed through there. But
the
as far as
film is also 20 years old. I figure most people have seen it.
Yeah, but like I think of Elizabeth and Barbosa having dinner together, like, before the reveal, as a really cool scene. Like, how they're preparing food, and I'm like, this food looks like shit, and you point out that it's like, yeah, but they wouldn't... That's the thing, there's a lot of, like, moments of really good foreshadowing, like, Joker being Clayface Arkham City level. Like, we're not hiding it, we're just not telling you, sort of stuff. Like, I'm like, ugh, that food looks nasty. You'd think people stealing spices for a living would know how to fucking marinate. And you're like, why would they? They haven't had to eat in like 800 years, 80 years, whatever.
8 years.
Well, they've forgotten how to cook, all right? And I'm like, that's a very smart point. I don't know if they were doing that on purpose or it just looked like old-timey food. But it's a good detail. And then you've got, I don't know their names, but Fowler and the Fez. The pirate, the really filthy one with the beard and like a little red like Pope hat. Will fights him on the Jamaica right at the start. Oh, that motherfucker.
He's got the bombs in his beard.
Yeah. So quote unquote Blackbeard, Fowler and the Fez. He fights Will in Jamaica Plains or wherever. Old fucking Jamaican Cove.
Port Royal.
Yeah, man. He's in Port Royal with cheese. And he fucking fights Will. Will puts a fucking axe into his spine. And I'm like, oh no, that guy just got Barbara Gordon and he's laying face down in mud drowning for the rest of the night. That sucks. This is Will Turner is quite a violent children's film hero. And then later that night, he's the one who fucking cracks Will and knocks him out during like the rest of that chaotic night. I'm like, oh good. He went from Barbara Gordon to Barbara Gordon New 52. So he's walking again. And I'm referencing all sorts of Batmans throughout this film because I can. And then later with the twist, it's like, oh, he probably fucking would have died, but he can't. So he gets respawned. You know what I mean? There's details there where it's like, yeah, he got back up. Isn't that a fun callback that he got revenge on Will? It's like, no, he had his fucking spine severed by a tomahawk.
Well, that's like a dead man. Another good point in that is Barbosa is pointing out that they don't feel anything. They can't eat. They can't drink. They don't feel hungry. They don't...
You
When
best
he's
start believing in horror stories you're in. One's always like a cool quote as well. It's a
when
classic.
he is marooning Jack and Elizabeth on the island, he forces her to take off the dress he gave her.
Yeah, that's mine. Fuck you.
And he holds it to his face and says, it's still warm, and then throws it to the crew. He wouldn't have been able to feel that. So it was purely to rile the men.
Yeah.
Because they would still be like, ooh, warm lady bodies.
Oh, pussy.
Like, there are a lot of things that they do that would have been, like, built-in stuff. Like, he doesn't give... And that's, like... But there's both the subtlety of them carrying things out because they're zombie pirates. But, like, the whole way through the film, what's the one thing that Barbosa is looking forward to eating as soon as they return the coins?
That fucking apple that he keeps carrying around.
What kind of apple is it?
The one from Snow White.
No.
The poison apple.
It's a Granny Smith apple.
'Cause
Which
he's
is an
horny for
Australian species.
Yeah.
Because Jeffrey Rush is Australian.
No, because because the Interceptor brought him over.
No, it's literally because it's an Australian apple and
Just a
he's an
fun
Australian
reference,
actor.
They're shit, by the way. American listeners, they're not good.
They're my favourite.
I'm not a big fan of green apples.
I like them.
Straight up.
It's good.
I think that are they the ones that are no? There's a type of red one that's made to be cooked and it's shit raw.
Yeah.
I forget which one. Apple genealogy is not why I came to this Pirates of the Caribbean podcast. I'm not prepared.
Oh, you also like the monkey.
Yeah,
We haven't spoken about Jack.
Played by two capuchin monkeys, one named Levi and one named Tara.
Yeah.
Your sister's a monkey.
That's rude, and I'll let her know.
Hey, sound checker, CJ, your mum's a chimp. That's fucking wild, man.
God damn, I'm gonna get in so much trouble when this episode comes out.
Oh, it's a Disney one too, so like others, all that family will be listening to it. Fucking dweebs. But yeah, the storytelling not being said, you know, actions not words, with a lot of that like subtle death stuff, and the original take of not showing Jack take that coin, but the fact that he pickpocketed, that falls into that category of like cool stuff there.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? We read through all your notes.
Well, post this movie being a huge success, that might have been what's ruined the rest of this franchise.
Okay.
So I was watching some other people's reaction, because not just this film, but overall, because this is a very long-running franchise. We're talking like
5 movies now?
Yeah, that's a lot. If you're not the MCU, that's a lot.
With possibly 7 in the works?
Yeah, because you've got maybe a Margot Robbie one, but also another one with Johnny Depp in it, which might be an issue, actually. Because this film, when I brought up the trio being important, look, the main character, who would you say? As far as plot, drive, and film itself goes.
Technically, it's Elizabeth.
That's fucking right. It's an Elizabeth movie with with Will coming along for obviously reasons and stuff.
That's the foil.
Yeah.
He's what you bounce all your
and
shit
Jack
from.
is literally a wild card.
Yeah.
And that's, honestly, he works great in this film, and I can see that.
Jack is supposed to come in and leave and
He's
come back in again.
He's the element of chaos to, like, keep shit moving.
Yeah.
Keep shit fresh. But because he's so, like,
Popular.
iconic and famous and stuff, it stops being an Elizabeth franchise. It stops being about other characters. It starts to be about him, and he's in it constantly, and he's treated like a rock star, whereas in this, he's kind of a shit heel with... Like, he's a turd with charisma.
He's not supposed to be what he turns into.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And, like, a lot of the other films, he is just like a invincible... It's the fucking Batman problem again. He stops being foilable, you know, and starts to become too much.
But I like that... I'm not sure.
Does a weird
don't-
village
you don't
tribe
rem-
treat him like a god in one of these films? See? That's C-3PO in Star Wars again. Fuck.
You don't have, like, a great knowledge of the other films, do you?
I don't, but I understand
you have,
the
like,
vibe.
a wishy-washy thing.
I've seen the one where there's a Cthulhu captain.
Yeah.
And Will's dad's a starfish.
Yeah. So
I've probably seen 2 of them. What's the third one?
they try a couple of times to, like, almost put Jack back into his place. So Norrington ends up basically getting tossed out of the British Navy. But they bring his character back in, and he's still on his, like, no, you screwed over my life, I'm gonna screw you over as well.
It's a revenge kick.
But then he, like, Rick flags it and comes back, and you're like, poor Norrington, why did we ever hate this guy?
I was thinking that
Barbosa.
when he surrenders his woman to Will at the end, I was like, at first I thought you were a dumb cuck, but you obviously have some more dignity than that.
And that's the thing, like, that character, they play him as the dumb cuck for a really long time, and then all of a sudden he's a good guy. And it's the whole, like, it brings back the father's quote of, if you're doing the right thing for the wrong reasons, it's still the wrong thing. They bring back Barbosa and try and, like, throw it off that, yes, Jack's good, but he's not the best. Like, he's too chaotic to actually follow through on what he's doing. So, like, they do try and balance it out as it goes. But Jack Sparrow is just such a huge character.
It's an inescapable thing.
They couldn't do anything to, you know...
I'm not saying he shouldn't be in the movies,
flame.
But yeah, he should be less of the thing. Gore Verbinski only worked on the first 3, so I don't know if they get weirder.
So... The films are somewhat... And that's why, like, I know we usually get into producer roles and, like, the nitty-gritty of who made the film. It jumps around so much because you'll have people that work on 1 and 4, people that work on 1, 2, 3, people that work on 1, 5, people that work on 1, 3, 5, people that work on... Like, they were just coming and going pretty freely.
Yeah.
Which, there's nothing wrong with that. It actually makes for, like, in most cases, that can make for a good franchise because you've constantly got new ideas and new insight coming in.
It's the thing I
rather
say
than
about
the
the
same
original,
person, like...
The original Star Wars trilogy versus the prequel trilogy. Is George Lucas did not have that much creative control in the first one. It was a melting pot of concepts and ideas. And then he becomes famous because of those movies. So then no one can really backtalk him during the prequels, and now it's about trade federations?
Yeah.
And there's, like, a lot of weird, like, Jewish-y characters?
Yeah.
Yeah, see? That's what happens.
But, and that's the thing, you know, it's... You're always better having lots of people there that you can take little bits and pieces of story. Like, the script got rewritten 4 times in 2 years. We wouldn't have ended up with a successful film without it, I don't think. Because... If
they'd done the first one, we wouldn't have got cool zombies.
And that's the thing, like, I think it was Johnny Depp when he was, like, another reason that he was really excited to do the film was it wasn't a pirate film. Everything had happened. The mutiny had happened. It really wasn't about, like, kidnapping the girl.
It's a post-pirate zombie film.
But that's what he was like, it's good because it's not a pirate film, it's a film with pirates.
It's like what we said during our Zom 100 episode, whether that's out yet or not. Genres need a little bit of a fucking extra kick. You got to blow that.
We've done them all so many times now that you need to find a believable and a good twist.
Thing plus other thing usually equals like a more unique thing.
The whole, like, funny part and full circleness of the entire franchise in general is that the one stipulation on making this film was that it had to distance itself from the ride.
And then the ride
film did
back.
so well that they refurbished all of the rides. So Disneyland, Disney World, I think even Japan did a rewrite of theirs in order to make it closer adapt to the movie. So they added Barbosa, they've added Jack like way too many times for it to even make
which circles
sense.
Back around to me being on the right, and he goes, "Drink up me heart is your her," and I'm like, wow, Johnny Depp is a great impressionist. Yeah. Just thumbing through the trivia on IMDb as we start to roll towards as we start to bring this ship to port.
Royale.
This fucking idiot. Ironically, the Blu-ray contains an anti-piracy ad.
It does.
You're fucking... Yeah, of course it does. You're an idiot.
It is just a DVD.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a pre-written homework for this episode, which is why we've been putting off recording it.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go with this brought back the, golden movie thing of pirates.
Yeah.
They've 100 times tried with cowboys and sucked at it.
Yeah, Cowboys versus Aliens.
Listen to Jonah Hex.
Lone Ranger. Home on the Range.
It did bring back the booby makeup, though.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, but Elvira was doing that shit before. It was cool, man.
She probably learnt it from the golden age of Hollywood, considering she was a 14-year-old girl who just had dinner with Elvis Presley.
No, she learned it from drag queens when she was hanging out with those dudes just before like pre-Elvira. Cassandra Pearson was like hanging out. Kicking it.
What classic
good autobiography
movie thing do you want them to bring back? Because I now know my answer.
Ooh, okay. So
don't steal it.
In preparation, let me stall a little bit while I try to think of something in particular. So we had a lot of homework ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So my favorite Johnny Depp character is the one from Dark Shadows.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite ship is Grey and Juvia, if they're secretly holding hands when we're not looking. That's the rule. It has to be the Joker Harley thing where it's like when the characters drop and they're like, what are you thinking about for dinner? I'm thinking about Chinese. And like there has to be a relationship there that we're not seeing because we see the performance of Joker. So I feel that it fits that same, like, I want them to be getting along when I'm not looking.
Okay.
I've transferred my Joker Harley feelings to Grey and Juvia, so that's my shit.
You no longer like Joker or Harley.
No, because they've retconned it so fucking hard, I can't hold on to that anymore. And I can't go back and watch the animated series because I've just drained it of all its nutrients so fucking hard. So those are my spare homework answers. Now for this one, I would like...
I'm going to give you some time. Because I know mine.
Because they try to bring back, like, detective noir
Practical
stuff, and it's
effects.
never good. Oh, fuck yeah. All right, I agree on that.
Because...
Definitive answer.
And I'm not saying for everything. Like, CGI has its place.
Jurassic Park rules. You have to build prosthetics, and the CGI is there to blur that shit, and to just tuck the edges in.
100%. That was what I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
Because I love constantly... when the photo of Sam and that hugging the dying Triceratops, and everyone's like, oh, I can't believe poachers these days out here shooting these valuable creatures. It's a fucking, like, life-size dinosaur. Like, practical effects will always 100 times make your CGI look better.
I mean,
because you're not relying on the CGI. It gives your, like, actors and things, like, I know this is very controversial. Twilight did it really well with the wolves. They made a wolf head so that the actors could make sure their eyesights were on with what they were going to Photoshop in later. Mm-hmm. They made sure that it was actually, like, a weighted, like, head so that if it, like, rested its head on an actor's shoulder or something, it would sag naturally with the weight of what they were trying to create. Like, 100% every time practical effects will make your film better.
That's why
you can still use CGI.
That's why all the original horror films hold up better than their shitty reboots that came around the early 2000s. The Thing, that's a huge one. So they originally did that in practical effects, and then the company's like, yeah, but, like, CGI is, like, trendy, so fucking ruin it.
Yeah.
No, you're definitely right. It's hard to think of a genre because I feel like they try very periodically, but they do.
But that's
because we can't keep doing superhero movies.
They're waiting to see what, like, everyone sat there and said, pirates will never take off from this. And sure, there are a few things like Stardust came out a couple of years after this.
Yeah.
It tanked.
Waterworld. Famously a failure.
But that's the thing, like, they have
to
keep bringing it back so that people go, oh, yeah, I remember watching things like this as a kid, or, like...
I think the problem is that, like, a lot of, like, very iconic things from genre just can't be replicated.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do the Dollar Trilogy now because the Dollar Trilogy already exists, and if you're doing it again, then it's a shitty soulless reboot, and it's not the same anyway.
Yeah.
That's the tricky part, is that the originality has to exist for a genre to work.
You know one of the ones that do it okay?
Huh?
Jumanji.
Yeah.
They get tanked on a lot for claiming to be Jumanji. Like, if you put any other name on the reboot ones, they would be great films.
No, I think the reason they don't is because Zathura didn't. So they're scared to do this game as real life, but not... Like, Jumanji worked, Zathura doesn't, so let's just do Jumanjis and not...
But that's the thing, people
right.
shit on Jumanji because...
If Jumanji
it was a board game, not a video game.
Do you remember Pitfall? Like the Activision, like, side-scrolling piece of shit?
Yeah,
like, super forgotten game. If it was Pitfall, the movie, completely different response. Yeah.
But, Hollywood is one of those things that they can never do it right, but they can never do it wrong.
Yeah.
There is no medium ground there whatsoever.
Yeah, for every, like...
Because you don't, like,
for
there's
every,
such
like,
a huge
20
audience,
strikeouts,
you don't know what...
There's always, like... You know what they should bring back? It's like, I know that's ironic, but, like, the original idea stuff. Because we... Like I mentioned, like, first Star Wars trilogy. Melting pot of ideas. Lots of concepts, lots of stuff. Nostalgic as hell. Everyone's still... I think the original trilogy is still the favourite. I'm sure, like, the TV stuff with Obi-Wan and The Mandalorian, we'll see, but I feel like they'll be the only competitor, really, as far as definitive good Star Wars. And then the prequels were, like, one-man controlled and an issue. But then the new sequels are just... I don't know what the word is, but it's made corporation-y.
Yeah.
Like, what's trending? What's a good
It was
idea?
made to be fan service without the fans in mind.
Yeah, it's not even that. It's like that weird... It's that weird corporate inclusivity that never feels right or genuine. That's the thing. It's that weird... It doesn't feel genuine because it was made, like, with test screenings and mathematics instead of storytelling. So I feel like that's the problem, is things going that way.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we have to tick all these boxes in a certain way because that's the movies that work, but they rarely do because no one cares.
Yeah.
Stop doing live action remakes of 2D cartoons. Oh, bring back hand-drawn animation. Oh, right? Yeah. Doesn't that sound good? That was a little bit disappointing about the Beavis and Butthead film.
Hand-drawn animation's where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that's completely lost now.
I think so. I think it's completely dead. When was the last time it existed?
Princess and the Frog.
Yeah. Bob's Burgers being looking like it does is fucking remarkable.
Yeah.
But it's not a hand-drawn thing either, it's still digital.
Yeah. I understand that it's easier to do it, but it loses that charm.
It loses the heart and soul. Which is what I was saying about the storytelling. It's hard to make a capitalist fucking thing about art. It's hard to monetize art because it's open to interpretation and it's usually made by some weird guy.
And the other problem is that everyone in the universe hates artists.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunately where we dismiss this topic.
I'm glad we finished it on a dire. On a downer there. But the Pirates theme is really good, so think about that instead.
The soundtrack's great.
You know?
That is by far the worst pirate I've ever seen.
So it would seem. And then it's always a meme of like a dude riding a shopping cart through like floodwaters. That's the best.
Alright, do you want to sign us off?
Thank you for listening to us.
Ramble?
No, I was thinking, is this really that nerdy of a topic? I think it appeals to Disney nerds and pirate nerds. Is there a comic book adaptation?
Probably.
The Haunted Mansion got one, so I can't say why not. It's a good rabbit hole, I think. Yeah, thank you for listening to us try to place this film. I've been
trying to knock out all of 2003.
Yeah, we're on our way. Stay tuned for us to talk about what was some stuff we haven't talked about? I was just looking at him. It's gone now. I have been your co-host this week, Toby DePaula. I've been joined by producer and actual host this week, Kai Steen. Remember to rate, review, subscribe, do all sorts of delightful little things that make you happy.
Touch the booty.
Yep, get some booty. Hey, we've done Hulk. Oh, shit. Stay tuned for us doing the Ben Affleck Daredevil.
Oh, I liked that movie.
You also like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
I fucking love that movie.
Oh, 2003. What are you? Class dismissed.